Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, I asked, how catastrophic would it be if Moreno loses to the panel last week? Now we really have to address it. Alex Pereira is no longer the champ at light heavyweight. What does that mean? And for those of you that were wondering when Sarukian's next fight will take place, it actually happened on Saturday. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con. Look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's here in Las Vegas, Sin City, the fight capital of the world. Danny Segura down in the 305. He's reporting in from Miami. Dan Tom, also a Las Vegan, chilling with us. He's our fight analyst. Ken Hathaway on the ones and twos. Guys, like the video. As soon as you see it, that's the thumbs up. Subscribe as well, man. Get in. This is a crazy party here over at MMA Junkie. Guys, let's get into it. Former UFC flyweight champion Brandon Moreno took an L this weekend in Mexico. That's his third loss there, by the way. I want a reaction from each one of you. And please answer that question. How catastrophic was this? Goes, kick things off.
This is an odd fight for me, man, because I'm not so sure that Moreno left any room for any adjustments in this fight. The game plan, we could tell what it was early on, but it wasn't any different from what we've seen in the past. And when his game plans work, it works out great for him. But when they don't, you can kind of just see it snowball little by little. I think what's going to get lost in the shuffle a lot is Kavanagh's performance. You know, he deserves a lot of credit for what he did, but more than likely, and we're going to do it as well, people are going to focus on Brandon Moreno and what this means for him. But don't let it get slipped by the goalie. Kavanagh's performance was incredible. He was overwhelmed with a lot of different, having to get in there on short notice, having to go into enemy territory, and he was still able to pull it off. So I do want to give him his flowers, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But Moreno, this is a tough one, man. I mean, if you've heard Brandon Moreno speak before, he's talked about retirement being very, very close. And a performance like this in front of your home crowd, it just took the air out of the building. And I'm sure he probably put his head on the pillow that night and had a lot to think about. It's something where you feel like it's not a couple screws that need to be churned. It's a rebirth. His entire game has to change if he wants to continue doing this at a high level.
You're not alone in your thoughts about Kavanagh. Goes, he was a stud for sure. Dan Tom, how about you, man? Give me a reaction to the loss and then answer the question. How catastrophic was this for Brandon Moreno?
Man, I was surprised. I mean, just for the fact of, I know that's how they're booking Brandon Moreno, even the booking that fell out with, was it not Albazi? He already fought Albazi. I assume Amabayev. I mean, it was a similar thing where you're trying to build up the, contender over the established name that is Moreno. So I get this, dog eat dog dynamic and, a young man's game and all that stuff. But boy, was I surprised with the outcome in the sense that it was short notice first, it was the first 5-rounder for Lonnie Kavanagh's at elevation over the pond, having to do all these things. And he answered the call, which again, like Go said, we'll talk about. But it's tough. You don't want to take away from him, but you also want to talk about Moreno, who not just lost and what that does to him, but, he came out, kind of looked a bit flat. He already did have, came in with a bruise on his leg, and then Lonnie Kavanagh made that worse with the leg kicks. And it was definitely a performance of an older fighter. And at flyweight, it's more volatile, these outcomes to call guys. But also in the lighter weight classes, that's where you see guys kind of age more overnight, right? That's the division you see it. And I don't want to say that, but it does lead into the next question and how catastrophic it is. I think it's extra catastrophic because, again, I don't think it's just an L here. It's also how Moreno looked, which wasn't great. He definitely looked like an aged fighter with a lot of miles. It takes a decent amount to make that walk and that cut. And I didn't like what I see, guys. I didn't like what I saw, guys.
And he's had a ton of 5-round fights too, man. Like, seriously, just like Frankie Edgar, his last 10 fights, we'll say, are probably the equivalent of everyone else. I don't know the math off the top of my head, but that's an extra, what, 20 rounds?
Yeah.
An extra 10 times 2. I mean, that's a lot. Danny,
Yeah.
let's get a reaction from you and answer to the question.
Yeah, shocking result. I did not see this coming at all. But yeah, I think Dan Tom was really on the money with his analysis here. Like he looked like an aged fighter. He looked like an older fighter that's on his way out. This was supposed to be a sort of a bounce back performance, right? He was fighting somebody that doesn't have nearly a third of his experience in that cage. He was fighting somebody that took the fight on short notice. He was fighting somebody that wasn't prepared for elevation, was coming off a loss, first loss ever in their career, specifically getting knocked out. And yeah, this just screamed like a bounce back spot for Brandon Moreno, but it was everything but that, right? Not only did he not get the result that he wanted and he lost, he also didn't look good in the process. And it wasn't the most exciting fight either. You know, maybe if he would have lost a 5-round banger, you know, where we're saying, you know, for the night, potentially fight of the year candidate, okay, it's a little bit easier to stomach. But given that the performance was flat, the fight wasn't exciting, and then the result wasn't a positive one, man, it was probably the worst, close to the worst case scenario for Brandon Moreno. I would say like the worst, anything worse than that would have been for him to get knocked out, which obviously wasn't the case. But yeah, just tough loss for Brandon Moreno. This puts him in a very difficult situation, and very curious to see where he goes next.
So, Danny, I'll stay with you. How much did his stock drop, and what's next for Brandon Moreno?
His stock dropped a ton. Because even going into UFC Mexico, I still considered Brandon Moreno as a title contender. I know I'm not in the popular vote here in saying that the fight against Tatsuro Taira was prematurely stopped. I think it was a pretty bad stoppage from Mark Smith, and I scored the first round for Brandon Moreno. So I kind of still left with that image. Hey, he's on a 2-fight winning streak. Yeah, he lost, but he lost to the guy that's going to challenge for the belt, and it was controversial. Brandon Moreno, in my mind, in terms of title contention, in terms of the title picture, was up there and was definitely a player. But after this fight, man, I don't know how you can. Also, he lost somebody against somebody that's not in the rankings, so keep that in mind. Now he should be in the rankings. We will be on Tuesday, but still, you guys get my point. Yeah, this loss just kind of exits him out of the title picture, and I think it's going to be more than just one win for him to get back in there in the title picture, in the title conversation. This was a devastating loss for Brandon Moreno. And as far as who's next, well, he had just fought in December. This was a quick turnaround. I would like for him to take a break. You guys mentioned the mileage. He's got I think 35 fights or something like that, 36 fights, professional fights. A lot of those.
He's only 32
fights.
Yeah.
He's only 32, which is a good thing. You know, he's got time. I think he can afford to take off, 6 months and come back maybe in September for Noche UFC for the Independence show, which it's a show he hasn't fought in. So maybe just rest up and wait for that, get a tune-up fight, get a favorable matchup, because as you mentioned, he is 32. He can easily just take a year to rebuild and then be back in title contention, maybe 33, closer to 34. But yes, this completely puts him in a very difficult spot. So
goes. I know you want to chime in, but let me
break
say this one thing.
UFC real quick.
Yeah, goes. I know you want to chime in, but let me say this real quick to follow up on Danny. I agree with the time off, and Noche UFC doesn't have to happen, but let's say it does. I don't want him at the top. He seems to not. He really just seems to not. He enjoys being. He's a proud Mexican fighter. But I think there's a lot of pressure that comes with being the finest product the UFC's ever produced from Mexico, and I'm not sure it works out for him. It seems like it's a ton of weight that's built on him. I would put him maybe in the featured bout or in a co-main event maybe, but it seems like that top billing man. He just looks fried all week. He answers questions. He tries his best to be professional, represent the country, and all that. But there's something to the weight that he carries. Go ahead.
I'm curious if when we look back at his career and we try and figure out what went wrong, if you could point to all the rematches that he's had, rematches where you don't necessarily have to work on different things, right? It's the same guy that's in front of you. Whereas guys that are taking different matchups, or one camp is all about wrestling, another one's all about the ground game, all about striking, and you're making all these adjustments to your game. He kind of got stuck in periods of his career training for the same guys over and over and over again. I'm wondering if that's what we can point to, where the evolution of his game just kind of hit a wall.
Could be. I don't know. Dan, you break down a lot of fights. Maybe you want to chime in on Goz's point.
I'll just add in, that's the exact same thing I say when it comes to Davison Figueiredo, who had a quadrilogy with Brandon Moreno. Those things, you guys have interviewed fighters like, Phil Baroni, a crazy name to throw out these days. But remember, he'll tell you guys, like, there was that fight with, was it Frank Shamrock? He said, right, that he neither of those guys felt the same after, and that's just one fight. Imagine going 5 rounds 4 times, basically, close to. I know there was some stoppages there in rounds 3 and 2 of their fights, but still, all those rounds that he did with Figueiredo, and it sucked because it took away the last of Figueiredo's prime, and obviously took a lot out of Moreno, and whatever was left. You had another 5-round war with Pantoja, epic fight. But again, how much is left after that, right, guys?
Yeah. That is a lot, man. It really is. Chat room, good stuff coming in from you guys. I've been not working the chat as much as in the past, and I'll try my best. We have a lot to cover today, but Anshul Julie's Gap Station makes a good point. Says, just how good is Charles Johnson? Victor Ramirez backs him up. He says, give Charles Johnson a top 5. Well, Victor, don't forget, he just lost to Alex Perez. So somehow, even though he knocked out Lonnie Kavanagh last August, he's probably behind Lonnie Kavanagh. And to Danny's point, Brandon's now behind, let's see, Pantoja's comeback, Manel Kape, Lonnie Kavanagh, and who knows who else, Kyoji Horiguchi. And that's why we're saying he's still a star. You can still book him somewhere, but he's not a title challenger right now. At
3 rounds is what he needs.
3-round fights, exactly. Dan, how impressed were you with?
Sorry, the Gooch. Sorry, the Gooch. That's the fight I wanted. The Gooch versus Moreno. What were you gonna ask me, Gigi?
How impressed were you with Kavanagh?
Very impressed. Very impressed. I laid out his path to victory, so I guess I can't be that surprised. But I was. It was really good. I figured, I'm like, I think he's gonna have to stay at kicking range. Leg kicks are gonna be a big thing for him, but I just didn't think he could do it for 5 rounds, because if you looked before, even in 3-rounders, not just the loss to Charles Johnson, but even in 3-rounders you won, he was having trouble with his pacing. So I'm like, how are you going to pace yourself against a former world champ who's been 5 rounds in your first 5-rounder at elevation? And he did just that. Now, Moreno didn't have the best pressuring game, at least on the feet, but he was able to stop the pressure against the cage. I know people were giving Kavanagh a lot of crap for being held there, but to his defense, Moreno was really pushing that spot. And again, it was Kavanagh's first 5-rounder, so he probably had to manage pace. I honestly don't knock him down for that at all. People were kind of knocking him for that in the fight. I still thought it was a great performance from Kavanagh. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, man, and he looks strong too. I mean, he's got a frame on him. When Brandon would put him up against the fence, I thought, okay, maybe he's gonna eventually get a trip, right? Maybe go down and grab a single or something and get this fight to the ground, change things up, maybe even start to tax that gas tank. But man, Kavanagh, like I say, is strong, and it makes me think Brandon Moreno might want to take some time off and just add a little bit to that frame as well, because he looked kind of weak in there against Kavanagh. But yeah, as for Kavanagh, what's next for him, man? What do you think, Danny? Who would you put him in against? I mean, maybe Kape, or is that too soon? Or is Kape waiting for the winner? Kape could also say, I want to be the sub for Tatsuro Taira versus the champs, Joshua Van.
Yeah, I wouldn't like the Kape fight, just because I already thought that Kape deserved a title shot. So putting him against Kavanagh, who's not even in the rankings, or soon to be in the rankings, would be kind of rough. I think Kape should probably do a rematch with Kyoji Horiguchi and have that be a title eliminator, maybe. But with Kavanagh, I don't know. We do have that London card coming up, right? So I think I don't know, anybody in the rankings, really. I'm looking at the rankings right now. Anybody in the top 15, I think, makes sense. I know it does seem like a step back because he just fought a former champion, but I think he doesn't need to fight somebody at the very top to capitalize on that win. Just fight on home soil, get a nice main card spot, get another win, put that loss behind you even further. and then after that, maybe try to get a crack at a top 5. So I don't know, maybe a Steve Erceg, maybe I don't know, Amir Abbasi.
Okay. All right. Goes Chito Vera. He's lost 4 in a row. Another popular Latin American name. Man, I just wish the UFC would have gone to Ecuador with this guy. Hopefully they don't miss the boat with Michael Morales. You can still go with him, but he just won't be the featured guy. But talk to me about his loss versus David Martinez and what's next for him.
Look, man, I don't consider him a bad fighter. I just feel like it's the same thing that keeps stinging him over and over, and it's that he does get off to slow starts, and he's just not reacting to what's going on in the fight. I think he's looking at it differently and seeing different things than what maybe the corners and the audience are seeing. His reactions are different, and he's just, as we mentioned a little bit with Brandon Moreno, it does feel like maybe a little wear and tear on him, not just physically, but mentally. I think he really has to figure this out. And I think the UFC is willing to keep him around. You know, he's a guy that people like to watch fight, and he's got a great personality. And if they were to ever go to Ecuador, they would lose their minds there. That guy's on billboards. He's very popular over there. For him not to have that opportunity would suck. But I do think this is something that he's got to figure this out, because it's the same thing that stings him over and over again.
Danny, why can't he fight rounds 1 and 2 like he did round 3?
I have no idea. But I think it's just part of his fight style. I think it's just part of his DNA. I think a mistake that I often make in my analysis is like trying to get fighters to be someone they're not. It's happened to me with Jessica Andrade. Like, I've always been on the boat of Jessica Andrade is going to be champion again. I mean, she's got power, boxing, explosiveness, this, that. If she just, buttoned up a little bit of defense, if she just did this, same thing with Chito Vera, if he just started a little sooner, if he just, and we've been asking for this for him, from him, fight after fight after fight. It's in interviews, it's in, media day questions, etc. He's aware of it. He's always like, yes, I'm going to change. I'm going to start faster. But he never does. And I think at this point, with 36 professional fights, I don't think we can expect that he will. So I think it's just part of his DNA. It's just the way that he fights. And unfortunately, given the current MMA rule set and the way the rounds are divided, it's just not a good winning style. So, I think at this point, people haven't figured out. The division has improved a ton. I think people know to bag in rounds early and then just survive at the end, because he is tough. He will move forward and he will throw down. But I think that's just built in him, and it's going to be damn near impossible for him to change that at this point in time.
We need to get him in one of them fights like Sakuraba and Gracie in Japan, right? Just
he'd
go until someone is done, and then we'll see him get strong as the fight goes on. You have any thoughts on Chito Vera, Dan, Tom?
Just sympathies to Jason Perillo's voice. Did you guys hear his pre-fight interview with Chito on the broadcast? He had like no voice. I'm like, dude, like we talk about fighters giving the last of their bodies for fights. Like Perillo gave the last of his voice. He's like, I'm done coaching. I spent all my voice on coaching Chito Vera the last few years, guys, yelling at him to throw punches. So,
is that when Charlie Arnold was interviewing him and they were wrapping the hand?
He's wrapping the hand. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's trying to save his voice, and like he was trying to do the interview as well as give Chito the pep talk, where he was kind of doing that thing where he's directly talking to Chito, going, as long as we don't let this guy get out ahead and outpoint us, we can win.
I wonder if Chidi Njokuani used to coach Chito as well. He's kind of lost his voice a little bit. All right, let's continue here. David Martinez, what's his ceiling goes? And just give me your thoughts on him. He was the winner. We're talking about Chito first.
Yeah, no, I think, look, I like him. I think he still has a little bit of work to do, but I think he's kind of in the spot where you would expect a fighter of this age and this many fights to be in. I'm not ready to say he's a future champion, but I think he feels like a guy that's going to be around for a while and a guy that can definitely improve and possibly put himself in those really good situations.
Danny, he didn't get the finish, which would have been electric again in Mexico. And remember, the fights were going well, man, with some KOs, lots of finishes, and that crowd can pop. But he got 15 minutes that are valuable of experience against a former title challenger.
He did, and that's exactly what I expected. I mean, who stops Chito Vera? Nobody. Dude's been in 36 professional fights and he's never been finished. So, yeah, I mean, it was expected that this was going to go to the scorecards. I thought that David Martinez managed the fight wonderful. I did see some things that I didn't like, especially his body language and the way he was reacting to some shots. I think if it would have been a 5-round fight, which again, this is a lot of the history of Chito Vera, right? If this would have been a 5-round fight, I don't know, maybe he could have even lost it because the momentum was clearly going towards the Ecuadorian here. But all in all, keep in mind that this guy has been in the UFC for less than a year, and he's already in a co-main event, already fighting a former title challenger. 3 wins, 2 of those wins being against people that were highly in the rankings. I think the world of this guy. I think he's got a ton of potential, and I expect him to be in title contention, and maybe in a couple of years even fight for a belt.
Dan, you like Peyton Talbot against David Martinez, or is that too soon? What do you think of something like that? Instead of going veteran versus young guy, maybe just let's put 2 risers, up and coming risers.
I actually like that idea a lot, George, that you mentioned. I just don't think the UFC would like it because it doesn't seem like a matchup they will book. I feel like they still want to, even though Martinez got a big win, I still think they're going to take some care with him. And then Peyton Talbot, the same thing. You got a prospect, obviously from a different market. You got one American, one Mexican, but they're both equally, I think, very valuable prospects in their own right. I don't know if the UFC wants to knock them against each other, but I don't hate that idea at all, George.
All right. Moving on here, let's talk about King Green. He stopped Daniel Zellhuber, and I'll actually take the baton from 240s in our chat. He says King Green was the most underrated fight on that card, fighting like a cocky Anderson Silva. There he goes, Triple H-ing Herb Dean. But he made it happen like a boss. It was Danny Segura. That was a did you have that on your bingo card?
I did not. I did have some weird feeling that maybe Zellhuber was not going to have a good performance and end up losing, but losing by knockout, even though Bobby Green does have knockouts in his record. I just didn't see it happening. Altitude, this guy's almost 40. Zellhuber's a big guy. He's tough. We saw him take a shit ton of damage against Esteban Ribovics in a fight of the year in 2024. I just didn't think it was going to end this way, and it did. I think this is probably odds-wise the most unlikely outcome of this fight. Was that I think it was at like a plus 1,000, right? By the way, somebody hit it. I saw somebody on Twitter that actually bet that, which is crazy. But yeah, did not see this coming at all. And props to Bobby Green. The dude's still doing the damn thing. We talk about how Chito and how Brandon with over 35 plus fights are starting to look old. This he's way past that, and he's still looking pretty damn good.
Danny, I'll stay with you. Give me another highlight from this event, UFC Mexico. It was Fight Night 268.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of highlights here. I thought the whole prelims were great, but I do got to shout out Javier Reyes. He is the first Colombian to get a win inside of the octagon since September 2020. And it's been a long time. Colombia doesn't have a very rich history inside of the UFC, but here we have a representative, the only actual Colombian-born fighter right now in the UFC roster, and he's going to be pushing that, trying to push that legacy and trying to push that history. So he looked great against Douglas Silva y Andrade. I like him. He's solid. So yeah, let's see how far he can take this.
It's all right. The MMA will come along, Danny. You got a pretty good soccer team, man. You also got Shakira.
Yeah, well, soccer will always be kings in soccer. MMA, but hopefully that changes with Javier Reyes. We'll see.
And the ladies too. Look up Nicole Santa Maria. She's another hottie. All right. Look at Dan. He's already looking her up. Goes another highlight from UFC Mexico.
I want to fist bump Danny. That was a good selection, and that walkout was dope.
Yeah.
I like that too. I'm gonna go Santiago Luna. If you guys look into his past and just the way he's handled himself for being such a young fighter, but being so disciplined, and that discipline in his life has transferred over into his game. You can just tell, man. I think this guy, we spent a lot of the early part of the show talking about how some of the Mexican stars are starting to fall off a little bit. This is one of the bright spots. I think this guy can fill one of those roles in the next couple of years.
How about you, Dan Tom?
Man, I'm still thinking about Javier Reyes' walkout now that Danny shot. That was a good shout, Danny. That was one of the better walkouts. It reminded me of that Simpsons episode when they visit the steel mill. We work hard, we play hard, baby. But I got to highlight. I want to take the time to highlight Peanuts, guys. I don't know about you guys. I was really impressed by Peanuts. He really kicked off the party fast. I mean, Peanuts finished a bit fast, but I don't know if you can really blame that on him because, guys, I don't know Schultz about on the Contender Series, but is it just me or did Schultz look terrified of Peanuts in there? I don't know, but
like a lot of people are. Yeah, a lot of people would be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be too. But I don't know about you guys. I was really impressed by the fast finish of Peanuts there. That was cool.
Yeah.
All right. I will shout out Regina Tarin. She was supposed to have I think a Muay Thai fight, so she stepped into this one kind of late. But she went out there and she had a great fight. I think they even got rewarded for fight of the night. Her Ernesta Karakaite, I think it was her name. And also a quick one, if I may, because there was some good performances along the way. The kid that beat the Peruvian, Kevin Borjas, swatted down Imanol Rodriguez 3 times. And I thought, cancel for Christmas. But Rodriguez, man, a lot of heart, came back and actually finished Borjas. It looked like he got him on the temple because Borjas had a late reaction to where he just slumped down and got finished, but great fight from both guys, and a really fun card overall. We just got a lot of news to get to, so we got to move on here. Chaos at RAF 06. Arman Sarukian is an interesting fella, guys. Can't get a read on him. I think he should be a spy or a poker player or a food critic. He's good at that too. What the hell happened in Arizona this weekend, Dan Tom? He won. He got that takedown, although he's not going to get $1,000 for it. Giorgio Poulos is the one that you see on social media with a sign that says "Take me down, and I'll give you $1,000." So per the rules, I don't think they counted it that way. But all the wrestling hardcore say, no, you got taken down. So the streets still know. But then came the unnecessary punch. What were your thoughts on that, Dan?
So if you were to tell me that there's a fighter in the UFC roster who is getting into fights and he got into a fight at a grappling contest, I'd be like, wait. I can guess. Shara Bullet. And because that was Shara Bullet's reputation, like doing these exact same stuff. However, since Shara Bullet is coming to the UFC, he's actually been behaving himself. And I don't know if that if it's like from Fallen or, randomly call it a Denzel Washington movie from the 90s. But I don't know if it transferred from Shara Bullet and now it's in Sarukian, but now he's possessed and you can't trust him and take him anywhere. I don't know what's going on, guys.
Yeah, I don't know if whatever happened down there, which he won the match, hurts him because of the trouble he's gotten in, swatting at a fan at a UFC event, headbutting a fighter pre a fight that he was going to fight, meaning the Dan Hooker fight, and then of course that weight catastrophe January of 2025. Danny, what was your reaction to that when you saw it?
Yeah, it was wild. Not surprised given Sarukian's sort of track record, and I think this was great for Raf. Obviously, they made a ton of headlines with it. But I don't know if it's great for Sarukian's career, man. I think the UFC's probably watching that and just kind of shaking their head. We do know that, allegedly, one of the reasons why they didn't give him a shot at the interim belt was because of that headbutt against Dan Hooker. This doesn't help his case for sure.
Because remember, Dana used to say, I can't trust John Jones. That's why I don't want to put him in these big fights. You think he's going to reach that point with Arman Sarukian?
I think he can, but I also think he can play the card that if it's convenient for him, he can, right? Because how many times do people get in brawls in the UFC and it's boys will be boys, this is an edgy sport. But when it's convenient, it's, how dare this guy behave this way? So for me, at the end of the day, I'm an MMA fan first. And I look out for my MMA needs first. And my biggest one is I need to see the best fight the best. And Arman Sarukian's making that very difficult, man. That doghouse, he just got out of it. And now the doors might be slammed again, depending on what the UFC wants to do. But the focus needs to be Ilia Topuria. And that's where the target needs to be for this kid. I get that he's a little bit of a hothead, but you just got to focus, man. These things aren't going to come your way.
Especially now that Ilia probably is not going to fight Justin Gaethje. And I'm not saying Gaethje didn't deserve it because he's the interim champ, but he's an American and the White House, I think, wanted to have some Americans fight there. Just as that tide might be turning if there was any sort of a holdback on Gaethje. Sarukian could have stepped in, and now because of this, you never know. A lot of people thought the headbutt didn't mean anything. Dana came out and said, "Yeah, man, I didn't like it." So that's why I'm wondering how much this is going to hurt him when he did everything he needed to. He fought a great wrestler, got the takedown, beat him on a card that was popping on Saturday night. Just walk away with your hand raised, and you didn't really need that to punch him, in that position that he was in. And I get it. It's not like Pulis wasn't bringing it on himself. He's a very aggressive wrestler, but still, man, like, I mean, you suffer way worse in MMA.
But the foundations of like relationships, don't they start with respect and trust, right? If the UFC can't trust you, what good are you for them? Look at John Jones, you brought him up. Look at Conor McGregor, and look at all the money that they've probably left on the table because of their actions outside of the cage or even in the cage. Don't be that guy. Like, you have all the talent in the world. Get in the cage and prove it. I think he can.
I will give Armin this. He has found a way to become more popular and likable with a lot of people. And I don't know if he'll be able to do it with this. A lot of people are actually fist bumping him. So maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But the important audition as a human being, as an athlete, is, I guess, your bosses, your employer, the ones that can put you in these big fights. That's something to keep in mind. I'm not trying to be a hater or nothing like that. I'm just saying Dana White's been pretty vocal about it. I got a comment here from Quay Stefan in the chat. How can they fight at RAF with contracts? Isn't that a conflict of interest? They always ask for permission, and that's why we see a lot of these fighters coming over. Aljo was on the card. He got a win over Benson Henderson. Marab is going to fight, apparently wrestle Henry Cejudo at RAF 8. Any thoughts on that, by the way, guys? Danny, quick one there.
It's fun. I think RAF is bringing a lot of fun into wrestling, and I think there was a huge void there. And honestly, wrestling is even more fun than jiu-jitsu, to be honest. I love watching it, and yeah, I think that's a fun matchup. I'm going to be watching. It's in Philly.
You covered it, right? One of them, the RAF.
I covered one of them. Yeah, one of them down here.
It was pretty entertaining.
Good. Yeah, very entertaining. Yeah. The matches are quick. With jiu-jitsu, sometimes even me, who I'm a blue belt and I've trained for many years, sometimes it's hard to really know what's going on, right? Especially for like somebody that does not train at all. Like, you're just clueless. Whereas wrestling, this guy takes one guy down, he's winning. If he doesn't, he's not, right? It's a lot easier to digest.
And yeah, folks, if you're curious, it's April 18th, RAF 8 in Philly, Marab versus Cejudo. So there you go, Quay Stefan. That happens. These fighters that are under contract with UFC, even Jorge Masvidal, who's been retired, has to ask permission. They clear with the UFC, and then they can do something. So we brought up Shara Bullet. Jorge Masvidal and Shara Bullet, they're going to grapple in Rio de Janeiro next month or this month. I can't remember, but you do have to clear it through the UFC if you're going to do something like that. Anyway, let's move on, guys. There was a lot of fight bookings over the weekend, and this is pretty notable. So check this out. We got hit with Yuri Prochaska versus what's his name? Carlos Ulberg?
Carlos Ulberg,
yeah, Carlos Ulberg on April 11th, UFC 327 in Miami for the vacant, not interim, for the vacant light heavyweight title. So we get that dropped on us right away. Process of elimination. What happened to Alex? He didn't pass away. He just vacated it, right? So what's next with him? And as you can imagine, obviously people are thinking, well, White House, the move to heavyweight, and of course now you got to fill in that. But let's focus on this. Dan Tom, your thoughts on Yuri versus Ulberg for the vacant light heavyweight title?
I think it's a great matchup. I mean, the vacant light heavyweight title thing, obviously the UFC not too interested in allowing their champions, to go for double champs or anything like that. They've been doing this trend. So if you put that aside, the matchup itself is excellent. It promises violence. Ulberg is more matchup dependent than Yuri. Yuri, you can always count on violence. So I think Yuri will bring the best out of Ulberg. And it's very interesting, too, with Ulberg's left hand going to be real potent in that matchup. But Yuri, man, his pressure, his determination, and even if the fight's not going his way, he can make it go his way. So I think that's a good fight, no matter how it cuts out.
Yeah, I like it as well. I think they were deserving. I think Yuri definitely won everyone over with his last two performances. And this was a guy that had been 0-2 against Alex Pereira. So he was almost in nowhere land. If you think about it, he caught a break here, but he earned it. And of course, Ulberg hasn't lost in I don't know how long. So he definitely should have been the other side of the puzzle. And so now, Danny, or Goes, let's go with you. Were you surprised that Pereira vacated? Now he's starting to wind up his career, but obviously there must be a big payday or a big fight somewhere when you just give up your title as well. You know, a lot of the financials are tied to you being champ.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Of course, it did catch me by surprise. And the one thing that makes me always think in these situations is how devalued the belt is in the UFC, right? Like people dream of winning the belt, defending the belt, and becoming the best in their division. And nowadays, the UFC's made it where the belt just doesn't matter as much as it used to. Now it's just about finding the right matchup to make as much money as you can. And that part kind of sucks about the sport. But I also understand. I mean, this is a guy who, when he started martial arts, his goal was not to be the UFC champion. You know, he's come over from another sport and really done amazing things. So if you're ever going to point to a guy who maybe deserves the opportunity to do something like this, it would be Alex Pereira. And if that is his destination, the White House card, and it is fighting for the heavyweight title, and he somehow pulls that off, bro, this is an amazing career that this guy could have.
Yeah, but Danny, I think it would be for the interim. It's either a super fight versus John Jones with no title at heavyweight, or it's for an interim against Price Rilgon, or maybe John Jones. I don't know. Arthritic hip and all, can't be trusted. Now all of a sudden he can't be trusted. It's so confusing.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen, right? These are all assumptions. I don't even discard the idea of fighting for the undisputed heavyweight title.
Really?
We can tell by, some of the comments and some of the things that have happened that the UFC, specifically Dana White and Tom Aspinall, don't really see eye to eye, pardon the pun. Like you can kind of tell that there's something there. And, if, we've seen the UFC strip champions before, and, what a better excuse than to do a fight between John Jones and Alex Pereira. I mean, that would be massive for the undisputed heavyweight title. Again, that's not what I want, but I'm just saying, knowing how this promotion works, it wouldn't surprise me. So let's see what happens, but it definitely seems that heavyweight is the move, right? He already vacated the belt at light heavyweight. He hasn't really been vocal about anything, but we did see some random video posted on his Instagram account of him just wanting to show us his walk around weight, which was 110 kilograms, about 242 pounds. So heavyweight's definitely next. Who is it going to be against? TBD.
There's a lot of more fight bookings to get to, but I want to ask your guys' opinion, all three of you or whoever wants to chime in. These vacated belts, if you ask Henry Cejudo, I bet you he could tell you about winning the gold medal, winning and defending both the two titles that he won. But when you take it over an incumbent, that's special, man. Like when he beat Demetrius Johnson, that's a hell of a moment for the promotion and for the fighter, and these vacated belts are pissing me off because we don't have that moment. You guys think of that too, or
a little bit?
Absolutely. It's kind of part of the matchmaking of it's like, filling the holes in a ship, George. It's what it feels like with the matchmaking. It feels like they're more filling holes in the ship, than they are really kind of taking care. Like that was the same thing with Moreno and Kavanagh. I mean, let's be honest, that could have easily been killing a contender right there. It could have easily been very bad matchmaking for the UFC in a sense, right? And even though the hometown guy didn't win, they kind of got lucky there. And, like I said, this will probably be a really good fight, guys, regardless of that. And that's what the UFC is banking on. But no, you absolutely hit on a point that kind of takes, I don't want to be too dramatic, guys, but it kind of takes a bit of that soul that we had a lot of that golden era of UFC, right? That they built off the backs of that we remember as fans. And yeah, when you do all these interim titles, it really takes away from that aura, George.
A lot of us come from a boxing background, and trust me, one of the first questions that gets asked is, who did you take that belt off of? Because there's so many great fighters in certain eras. And to be able to say, I took one off of Sugar Ray Leonard, I took one off of Roberto Duran, there's something to that. There's a mystique and aura that gets lost when this happens.
I think Robert Whittaker was another one that just, he fell into being the champ and didn't have that crowning moment. And then, of course, there was a weight miss that ruined the title defense. But I hope the UFC doesn't do this too much. You know, I don't know. I mean, I know it's going to be special if Pereira can pull it off. I get it, but Pereira is also going to sail off into the sunset soon. It's not like they'll be able to cash on some epic run, you know. And it's crazy. I don't know. That was just a side note from me. Pitbull versus Pico. Give me your thoughts there, Danny.
Ooh, love this fight. This is a Bellator fight. These guys have been on a collision course for quite some time. Fun one. I'm glad that the UFC made it, because sometimes when the fights are so obvious to make, they don't make them, but they did with this one. So shouts out. They got this one right.
It takes place at UFC 327 on April 11th. Gamrot versus Ribovics goes. Your thoughts on that one? Also in Miami.
These are two fighters I think who can use some consistency in their game, right? They're both kind of those win two, lose one type of guys. So I think it's a good matchup, and I think it'll be fun. It'll play out well.
This one's dangerous for Ribovics. If Gamrot, especially Gamrot coming off some losses, that guy is a nightmare on the ground. So we'll see, but maybe Ribovics can get over on him. He's been killing it too. Sticking with April 11th, UFC 327, Dariush versus El Loco Torres. Dan, Tom, your thoughts on that one?
I hate this matchup almost as much as I hate Ribovic versus Gamrot, because I love Ribovic versus Gamrot, and it's just a terrible matchup for both of them. And it's a terrible stylistic matchup too, I think, for the fans. But as far as Dariush, he was contemplating about going up to 170, guys, if he was going to stick around. And even though I'm not excited for Beneil to stick around because he's been getting knocked out, maybe having some more fluid in the brain going up to 170, maybe that's not as hard on his brain for his last fights. So the UFC making him step down and going against a guy like El Loco Torres, who's on a roll, who's a guy who finishes you in the first round, and you got a guy like Dariush who has a problem with getting finished in the first round. It feels like a binary matchup we've seen too much. It'll teach us nothing about El Loco Torres, who, if I have one problem with El Loco Torres, aside from having the most annoying looking post-fight dance since Henan Baral's disco dance or OSP's, I'm sorry, I put El Loco Torres as this, like, right up there. I don't know why it annoys me. He seems like a very nice guy, a very fun fighter. But if there is a criticism beyond that, it's that we don't see enough of him. And it's going to be another classic spot where an old guy gets offed and we've learned nothing. And congratulations, UFC, you produced another dead body. Not all of them can reanimate and still get wins like Bobby Green, but okay. Sorry.
Can you do the OSP's dance one more time, Dan?
I know he explained it to you guys. It was like a college thing from his football.
Yeah,
again, I'm not trying to hate him.
44, right? And I think he would go like this or something like that. Is that what he was doing?
Yeah, it was like,
yeah, he was a linebacker. He was a linebacker at the University of Tennessee, man. OSP, the Von Flu guy. Von Flu guy. Dan, I'm sticking with you. Curtis Blades versus Josh Hokett. Also on UFC 327 in Miami. A lot deeper than UFC 326, by the way, which we'll talk about in a sec. But your thoughts on these heavyweights? Dan?
The heavyweight. Oh, sorry. I thought you were the heavyweights.
Blades
what was the matchup again?
The Curtis Blades versus Josh Hokett. You like that
I
one?
like it. It's a big step up, but I like it. It's it'll be interesting because Hokett is one of three guys who can wrestle in the division or can grapple at all. And you're thinking, oh, he's going against another guy who can do it. Kind of. But I've kind of taken Blades off that list because if you guys remember, Blades hasn't wrestled since he beat Alistair Overeem 10 years ago, in case anybody's been noticing his fight style. So it'll be real interesting. I don't know about Hogan making heavyweight great again, but he will make heavyweight grapple again. Thank goodness. Somebody is.
Mm-hmm. Danny, you get JDM versus Carlos Prates May 2nd in Perth, Australia. This one carries some weight, in terms of the top of 170. Yeah,
huge fight at 170 pounds. Fun fight, too. I think this is one of the better matchups you could make this whole year. This is going to be an exciting one. We'll see who goes down. Both guys have knockout power. Both guys like to strike. Both guys like to move forward. It's going to be a fun one. I very much like this fight. And we're getting it for 5 rounds. Amazing. I love this fight.
Good point, yeah. There was some rumors there for a real minute of McGregor versus Prates, but that went away with this fight booking. Who knows what's going to happen with this White House card. Quay Stefan in the chat says Valentina's dance kind of annoys me at this point. I kind of like it. I mean, she puts effort into hers. I kind of like hers, actually. Her and Merab, too. They do it together. Let's see here. So I know this is going to sound like King Kong versus Godzilla, but goes, check this out. At the Pyramids, Alexander Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven. So boxer versus kickboxer on the zone, May 23rd. But yeah, at the Egyptian pyramids.
I really don't know how to feel about this. I feel like fight bookings lately have just been stages in Street Fighter 2. You know, like they're at the spear one moment, they're in the pyramids, the slaughter at Stonehenge, I guess, is next. But so it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's like, what does it prove? Not very much, you know, especially for a guy that when you look at his boxing credentials, they get overlooked a lot. Like this dude's got some skins on the wall. I don't know what this does for them. They're going to get paid, but it'll probably be pretty cool.
Remember when Floyd and Aldo, weren't they going to do something at the top of one of those towers in Dubai?
This is getting out of hand, no?
Yeah. And speaking of, Floyd Mayweather, 50 years old versus Manny Pacquiao, who I think is 46, September 19th in Las Vegas on Netflix. Cha-ching for both of them. But again, this one's probably pushing about 10 years after the original, which was probably 5 years after when we really wanted it. Any thoughts on this one, guys? Because you love the boxing, or anyone, Danny? Dan?
Yeah. Well, there's some things that I like and some things that I don't like. One, it's, you know, again, the first fight was, as you mentioned, it happened way too late, right? And now we're getting this like 10 years after that. Like this fight is definitely, yeah, I don't know. But hey, I'll give credit to Netflix. Like I do like the fact that they're getting into combat sports. I do like the fact that they're trying to put on shows, which that matters. In an era where we see so many Apex events, right? Where like the product doesn't seem that much fun. Here is Netflix trying to get creative, trying to do interesting stuff. So that I respect. So yeah, let's see what happens. But the first fight wasn't all that great. I don't necessarily think this is going to be great as well, but still going to be a show.
This is going to be like Hoist versus Sakuraba 3, I think. I joked about their first one that they had. But yeah, I mean, this is almost 2 50-year-olds going at it on Netflix, though, man. When anything on Netflix seems to be pretty big nowadays. Goes, you have a comment here on the chat from Masters of the Universe Classic. You can reply to me in the chat, but the new Masters of the Universe Dragon Pearl of Destruction game, the day after we spoke, announced release date and new trailer, April 28th. What does all that mean, Goes?
It means that him and I are both nerds, basically, was what it means.
Yeah.
But, I'm totally down with that new movie coming out. I haven't seen anything about this. So I want to check it out. So if you can on Insta or X or whatever, send me a link, man. I want to check this out.
All right, there you go. Yeah, nothing wrong with nerding out. And rest in peace, Lewis from Revenge of the Nerds. He passed away this past weekend. If you haven't seen it, it's an 80s film, but you'll love it. If anyone hasn't watched it, if you just want to go in the time machine and check it out. A couple good scenes too for the young guys. All right, let's see here. I need a timeout, man. Like so much has happened here on this, you know, Mexico, RAF, and all these fight bookings. And by the way, all those fight bookings, there might even be another one or two. I think Vicente Luque got booked. Check out MMA Junkie's front page. It was just splattered with fight bookings, and you can always go to the schedule tab and see, you know, the upcoming events, the times, and the full fight cards as well. I always recommend that one, because we tend to zone out. So when you want to know what's happening, that's a great source. It's also available on the app on the smartphones too. Rankings, good stuff there that you can get up straight on your phone. So subscribe. It's easy, or download it, whatever it's called. Do that. All right. So UFC 326 is in town here in Las Vegas. You know the drill. Let's rate the card. Danny, you go first. 1 to 10, UFC 326. And I know we've covered UFC 327 a lot, so they're going to get compared to each other a little bit here. Danny?
This has to be one of the worst pay-per-views I've seen on paper. Well, pay-per-views, no, numbered events, because you don't no longer have to pay to view it. But within the numbered event standard, I would say a 6.8, 6.8, maybe 6.7 if I want to get a little youngster.
I have 7.2.
7.2. Dan?
Dang, man. Yeah, I got like 6.5, but I will say the caveat again. I think it could finish at like an 8.5, you know, with action. I feel like the Australia card, if we're going to compare straws here of negative straws, to Danny's point, I agree it's a weak card, but I would say maybe the Australian card we had recently was maybe a little weaker name value wise, despite having guys like Quill and Salkild deliver and whatnot. You got opportunities here, but yeah, I'll go 6.5 with the ability to finish in an 8.
I'm going with a 5.2, and I'm going to tell you guys why.
Wow.
I agree, Dan, Tom. The one right after back-to-back weeks, I didn't like that. But at least it had a title fight. And it was a title fight that I didn't agree with. But at least it had a title fight. BMF is cool, but I wish it would be like the Olympics. If you're going to keep it in the lightweight area, just do it every 4 years. But if you're going to shove these down the throat, then at least sprinkle it in other divisions, right? Max doesn't really need to defend the BMF. Like Max wants to be, he wants either McGregor next or he wants to win the proper title next. So again, I think it has to do with the UFC schedule and they're building for the White House card that they have to give us this. Now, that said, just like Dan said, it does have the capabilities to be an 8 or a 9 because once we get in there, it's up to the fighters. And if they throw down, I'm the first guy to walk in on a Monday and go, man, that was an 8, that was a 9, that was a 10, that was a this, that was a that, whatever. And we praise all the new ones that we found out about and give some love to the veterans that hung in there, right? But yeah, on paper, 5.2 out of me.
5.2.
Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on BMF, Danny?
I don't even know anymore. I think it's something cool, but like don't put it to headline pay-per-views, right? Like don't put it to headline numbered events because it does feel like a cheap way out of, hey, this is a numbered event. We got a title fight. No. Now if you want to make a numbered event a little bit extra special by having, our usual title fight and then on top of that a BMF, okay, fine. I'll accept it. But don't sell it to me as a main event. I guess the only good thing is that we no longer have to pay $90 for it. So I guess there's that. Yeah,
that does help a little bit. Goes BMF, your thoughts? I mean, dude, remember prom? If you got a band like Oingo Boingo, like it was a local band for us, great. Oh, they couldn't make it. We got Richard Blade, a great DJ. All right, cool. Dude, it's like they're giving us a jukebox this time at the prom.
Yeah, a little bit, man. Like, I like the idea of the BMF. I like having a celebrity in there that's a BMF to put the belt on them. But to me, regardless of whether the belt is on the line or not, it's just always on the line. That's part of being a BMF. So when you see the BMF lose, to me, it loses its mystique. That belt just has to go back into circulation and you find a new one. But to be able to look at somebody and say they're still the BMF, just get knocked out, that doesn't make much sense to me.
All this said, Dan Tom, does the winner of this actually implicate things at the top of the division by being the BMF? I got a strap on my shoulder. Gaethje's got a strap on my shoulder. If Holloway wins, who, by the way, beat Gaethje a couple years ago, does he now have a say?
You'd think so. The only reason is because the UFC fumbled so much with this lightweight division where you had, a guy who's now the interim champion, but now we have a title fight just the next month later between two guys who finished him kind of relevantly, right? And then you have to add the fact that I know I'm going to mention the R word, which, by the way, we have 2 rematches atop this card. And just like the other Australian pay-per-view card we were arguing about, that was a rematch too. Well, half of these BMF title fights, especially lately, they've all been rematches as well. So how much traction are we really getting anywhere, right? As far as these guys' careers, much less in their division, much less the murkiness that these titles add to the division. So yeah, I haven't been too excited about it either for my own reasons, guys.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that point. No disrespect to Chucky Olives. He also beat Justin Gaethje. So who knows what happens here. It's like I say, with Elia now almost going on 9 months without having defended it. We know he's not on the White House card, so he'll push it over the year by the time he defends. It's crazy. All right, quick prediction. If you guys have one, early lean, whatever you want to call it. Danny, who wins? Who's the BMF on Saturday night?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Holloway.
Goes?
I think when Oliveira shows up, he's very hard to deal with, but you never know what version of him you're going to get. With Max, I think you don't have those worries of who's going to show up that night. It's just execution. And I think Max Holloway can execute on this night, so I'm leaning towards Max.
All right, Dan, Tom, this is the Ninth Island. Careful with your words.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I just want to take this opportunity to shout myself and you guys, MMA Junkie Radio, because the first time these two met was in August of 2015, UFC Saskatoon. And that was the first fight I ever broke down publicly guys, not on MMA Junkie. I wasn't with them at the time, but on my own site that still stands, mixedmartialanalyst.com. And this was the first fight I broke down. And I remember exactly the stoplight I was at, Green Valley and Horizon Ridge, when I was listening to MMA Junkie Radio. And it felt surreal because I heard Gorgeous George and Goes shout my name. And they actually plugged my website and my breakdown for the first Holloway Oliveira fight. And I was like, wow, is this real life? I'm getting a plug on MMA Junkie Radio. Next thing you know, I'm on MMA Junkie. Over a decade later, these guys are fighting again. So it is this is a rematch actually that's near and dear to my heart. So I wanted to shout that memory out and you guys out.
Very cool, man. Thank you for that, Dan. And I'm glad you're part of the team and you're excellent at it. And your memory is incredible. Honestly, you said something earlier about the 10 years since Blades and Alistair Overeem. I'm like, did they fight? Like, because I forget all these things. But anyway, moving on, this card does have some talent. It's just not as deep as some of the other ones, especially 327. Shout out to the matchmakers. They're loving themselves on Miami. Danny, you're gonna have a long press day because I think all 26 fighters are probably gonna be doing the pre-fight package that day. Anyway, RDR versus Kyle Barallo goes. Prediction there.
RDR seems to find a way to get things done, but until he can show us that he's figured out these issues that popped up in that last fight, it's kind of hard for me to side with him. I think he's going to win, but I guess my brain probably says Ohio right now.
All right. Danny Segura, who do you like in this middleweight tilt?
I cannot pick RDR after watching his performance against Brandon Allen. I think Kyle Barallo can do just what Brandon Allen did, if not better. And I just can't trust this guy to make a pick. So I'm going with Kyle Barallo here, who seems sort of the more consistent product.
To be fair, Barallo didn't look that great against Ivanov in his last fight.
But he didn't look as bad as RDR.
Okay. Dan, Tom, you're the tiebreaker. Oh, no. They both like Barallo. Who are you leaning towards, Dan?
Man, that's tough. I want to be contrarian here, but I would lean toward Ohio as well. Of course, you want to see my quick picks over at MMA Junkie on fight day to see who I officially land on. But you're asking me now? Yeah, I'm leaning toward Kyle Ohio.
Okay. All right. I was rooting for RDR, but I am also a Fighting Nerds fan. So I can't wait to see the breakdown, Dan. You might convince me there. All right. Moving on. Rob Font versus Raul Rosas Jr. goes. Who do you like here?
I can't remember an episode where nerds have been shouted out so much. Revenge of the Nerds, Fighting Nerds. Rob Font, look, Raul Rosas Jr., I feel like is in the place that he needs to be right now, but it's make or break time, right? This is a veteran that's very respected. If he can get a win here, I think it would be really big for him and there'd be no turning back at that point. But I think the best Rob Font beats the best Raul Rosas Jr., if that makes sense.
Danny Segura, your quick prediction on that fight. And let me give you another one. Is Raul Rosas even ready for the top 15? Like, this guy's really, really young and just getting going.
I will answer both those questions with one word. Gee whiz.
Okay, so he's the truth, huh? Yeah.
Yep.
Future champ?
Well, I don't know about that, but he beats Rob Font. They've tried to book this fight, I feel like 50 times. I feel like we've always seen like rumors of this fight floating around for the last like couple of years. There's a reason why they like this fight. I think he gets it.
Yeah.
All right. And Dan, how about you? What are your thoughts on this fight? Old guy versus young guy. And if you have a lean, go ahead and share that with us.
Rematches, impromptu fights, I always say are like the most common things, but also rebookings, like Danny said. I think they rebooked it for a reason. Raul Rosas, I would lean toward him, even though it would be cool to see Font get it done. And did you ask me what else I like from this card quickly before I get out of here, George? Is that what you asked?
We will, yeah, we will. You
okay, no, I'll say. Sure. Just real quick. I will say that I remember I typed it in the chat, but Long Zhao versus Cody Garbrandt. Weird to see Cody Garbrandt against a name that most people don't recognize. By the way, Long Zhao was my nickname in high school, guys. But no. Long Zhao is actually really fun Chinese fighter, man. He brings action, and I think people don't sleep on that fight. It's gonna be a fun lower weight class affair.
Another highlight from Goes.
I like Michael Johnson and Drew Dober. I think Michael Johnson's got a lot to prove here, getting a fight again, and it's just, I don't know, this fight's asking for chaos, I think.
Yeah, it's a good fight.
Speaking of asking for it, I'm asking for it. Danny Segura, don't take mine, but what's your other highlight?
There's only one right answer here, and I can't believe you guys didn't take it. Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Pereira. Brazilian on Brazilian violence. Both these guys like to throw down. They don't care. They march forward. Very different in statures as well. Like it's going to be an interesting fight to look at. This is a badass fight, man. Someone's getting slept.
Yeah, exactly. And see, this is what can make the card an 8 or a 9 because it's got fight of the night written all over it. It's got vicious KO written all over it. And I think Bruno's beaten him one time, so I think Rodriguez wants to avenge that. So, man, I think this is going to be this. I don't mind about like this. You know, it could have implications for the top. No guys even in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. So no, not really. But it can bring a lot of excitement to the card. So yeah, you basically took that one from me, Danny. But again, we'll reserve judgment till the end. This is a quick one from Goes. We brought up the prom, we brought up nerds, we brought up Godzilla, we brought up so much aside from all this hard-hitting news. So please give us a like on the way out and subscribe. But real quick, Danny, who would you take to the prom, to the MMA prom, Danny Segura?
Go.
You can't take Dern because Goes is taking Dern, he said. He already claimed her.
I'm already taking Mackenzie.
Goes is taking Dern. Who are you taking?
Ariane Lipsky, I'll take.
All right. Dan Tom, who would you take to the MMA prom?
If it was from the chat, I would take Lazy Bed because he shouted me out. And yes, Lazy Bed, I would love to be on Pop Quiz. Tag me for that. But I'll go with the local flavors, man. I'll go with Regina Tarin. I'll take her to the prom.
Yeah.
Goes, can I take Red Little Cruz or does it have to be a fighter?
Nah, it's got to be a fighter, man.
Oh, okay.
One hell of a loophole.
Valentina. That way I can get in some scuffles and I got some good backup.
Yeah. Well, after the first dance, man, you guys are going to run out of moves, no?
That's true. She's gonna embarrass me there. Who's Cold Coffees? Does he want to pop in or will he type it in the chat?
Yeah, let's go Coffees. Come on, Kenny.
Cameo to Cold Coffee.
I don't.
We'll give him 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3.
No, I ain't touching that. I ain't touching that.
Come on, you gotta give us a name.
No.
Wait,
I support all the attractive people and non-attractive people in MMA.
It's just prom. Nothing happens at prom. Maybe a peck on.
Maybe your prom. Things happen at my prom.
Oh shit! They get down in Ohio. All right.
I ain't touching that as also what his prom date is gonna say, right? At the dance.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for your support. And again, if you can hit the like button on the way out, kindly consider subscribing to the channel. I don't think we're asking for much. It's free. That's all you got to do is subscribe, and we'll deliver the content. And we're going to deliver a lot of content because it's fight week, pre-fight packages, the weigh-ins live, the ceremonial weigh-ins live, and of course, Goes and I will be doing our watch along this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Farah Hanoun will be doing her preview show as well. Everything moves up, so she'll be starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And with that, we're out of here. Sorry, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And with that, we're out of here. Go out and be a champion.